Sounds good to me. All right, welcome to the fourth or fifth or whichever one we're on now of the Legends Comicast. This week is a very special The Legends Comicast. We have a special guest with us. Uh, I want to thank everybody first and foremost for listening and providing us with all the support you guys have provided us with over the past couple of weeks. We've been getting a lot of awesome feedback. A lot of people have been helping us out. Tons of people want to get involved, want to help us, want to be on the show, reach out. They're asking us for advice on what to read. And it's just a really cool kind of community that's coming out of it. So first and foremost, I just kind of really want to thank everybody for helping us out and showing interest in the show. It's a hobby for us, but we really appreciate you guys and all the support that you've showed us. The first thing I want to bring up is last week's winners of the sweepstakes that we had. The first person. Go ahead, just get it all out of your system.
I was excited for the winners.
Absolutely. I was pretty excited.
The first person, the grand prize winner, was Brandon Horn. Brandon won a 6-issue subscription to Superior Spider-Man. Superior Spider-Man is a bi-weekly title, so it comes out twice a month. So he'll have 3 months worth of Otto Octavius goodness. So that'll be pretty awesome. The second person that won Forever Evil issue 1 through 4 didn't actually leave us his name, but it's Saint Pyre. So whoever you are out there in the world, you won. So hopefully you're listening, because if not, those issues are ours again.
I mean, yeah, please send a message.
We'll give them
to our Twitch or our Facebook page or wherever.
It's kind of like you got mail. We don't know who you are, but we want you to come to us. We want to love you. We want to give you things.
You just make a reference to the Tom Hanks romantic comedy on this cast.
Actually, can we start over? Is it too late to start over?
Nope.
I just want to make
You're
sure
in too
that what
deep.
happened there did happen.
This week we actually we don't have anything in specific for a giveaway, so go ahead and tune out now if you want to. But
we'll come up with something by the end.
I just opened a whole bunch of packs of Starburst. You can have a bunch of yellows.
We're gonna give away like some kind of maybe jazz tap dance lessons with Garrick or something. We'll figure something out that works. But anyway, back to the cast. So, fourth podcast, Brandon Horn, last week's winner, 6 issues of Superior Spider-Man. Saint Pyre, the other person out there, Mystery Man, wins issues 1 through 4 of Forever Evil. Please contact us. Let us know who you are.
Actually,
he just posted in the chat.
let me interject. His name's Taylor. He's a friend of mine. He actually just hit me up on Facebook, so we now know who the winner is.
All right, cool.
Okay, cool. So Taylor is the friend, or whatever, you are the winner. Awesome. Thanks for supporting us. I appreciate it. Awesome. The first thing I want to bring up before we get into our time with the awesome Ken Krekeler is if you're listening in live this week, please ask your questions in the comment section, and we'll try to get to them. We have another friend of ours. Her name is Rachel. She's on the cast right now. She's looking through the questions. She's going to sort them out and see which ones we can answer and stuff like that. So please write your questions in there, and we'll try to get to them as soon as we can after we're done asking all of our questions, because we are the most important.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, let me introduce Mr. Ken Krekeler. How are you doing today, Ken?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on here. For those of you guys who don't know Ken, he is an independent author and artist. He's done tons of different stuff. Most recent stuff that he's done has been Westward and Dry Spell, which are both pretty awesome. If you haven't read them, I recommend you go check them out. I won't promote for him too much. He does that for himself. But we're going to start out just by asking him a couple questions, trying to get to know him, trying to let you guys get to know him, get an idea of the projects that he's working on. I love the picture that we chose for him.
Yeah, can I say that picture, that look, that I don't know, disappointed look of Ken Krekeler, just extreme disinterest is how I picture you at all times, Ken.
Okay.
your
It's
disappointment in the entire world and surroundings. Like right
exactly.
now, you're overhearing a conversation about the Man of Steel film. It's not that big of a deal.
Cool. All right. So, Chris, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, no, that would be beautiful. So Ken Krekeler, if I can call you that. So how do you promote yourself? How do you promote your books? How do you raise awareness for the material that you are author and artist of?
Promoting books is hard for me. It's mostly throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. So I have a website and I have a Facebook page and I go to Comic Cons and try and raise awareness about it and get it into the hands of the right people. And that's pretty much it. It's hard to keep up updating, Facebook or Twitter feeds when you have all this other stuff to do. So and I don't really know what I'm doing with it. So it's just guesswork. It's guessing.
Right. I mean, it clearly worked. It got you here. I mean, you met us at a comic book convention, so you're now
Yeah,
famous.
yeah. That was a chance meeting though, and I don't know, are Comic Con social media? I mean, it's just Facebook and stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, it's. I think any social interaction you get to have is probably beneficial. Um,
Right.
how long does it for that? You were kind of talking about how long, how many Comic Cons and stuff like that you've been to. How many have you brought? Set up a booth and brought products and titles to sell. How many do you think you went to?
How many cons have I gone to, or how many places? Like how many different locations?
Different locations, which either or is fine by me.
I've probably gone to about 6 different locations, and I've probably done about t- 10 to 15 conventions total.
So I guess, I mean, obviously, while you're at these conventions or even partaking in what social media that you can handle, I mean, you're coming across readers. People are engaging with your work, and they're probably at least trying to talk to you about it. So how do you engage with their feedback? I mean, have you ever found the things that your readers, that your audience say to you, to affect your work in any way, or to affect the product that follows, or do you just write what you write and hope they like it?
I write what I write and hope they like it, but I don't. I mean, generally, feedback is pretty positive, but it's usually not much more specific than, hey man, I really like your stuff. Keep up the good work. And then, that's really cool. It's very encouraging stuff, but nobody's, there's not a message board somewhere where somebody's talking about, I really like how Victor West does this, but I wish we could see more of Penelope, or, it doesn't really get that in depth as far as feedback. Uh, I don't think
Did
I've ever had the opportunity to change my stuff based on what I hear other people saying about it yet, but I would
would
totally sell out right away.
I was going to say, would that be useful to you? I mean, is that the sort of feedback that you'd like from
Um,
fans, or that you think in general would be useful to authors?
I think that it would be really useful in a series type situation, because in a series that's a more organic story that is long running and it comes out in episodes or chapters or whatever you want to call it, and that story can change and flow with whatever's going on in the world, or um, whatever characters develop, or whatever characters are more liked by people. I could see that becoming a much more important element. But if you're doing a graphic novel where you already know the story from beginning to end and it's shorter and it's more of a more compact story, then I think you should pretty
Right.
much do whatever you've got already set in mind.
Well, by the time that hits shelves, it's too late for their feedback to really have an impact
Right.
anyway. Yes.
Right. It's like a movie instead of a TV show.
Mm.
I
Cool.
actually have a question.
Oh no.
Um, okay, let's all calm down. My favorite thing out of everything you've done is Dry Spell. We've talked about it before. Like, I praise Dry Spell like no other. And my favorite character is also in Dry Spell, Tom. Um, do you have any favorites out of all the characters you've created and come up with? Like, are there any just stand out to you as, yeah, that's a good character?
Yeah, Tom.
Tom? All right, well, we
Yeah.
agree.
Uh, that was an important story to me. I connect with a lot of those people, but yeah, I really liked Tom.
All right. Jordan, did you have some?
Is there any character that you've written that you're like, man, I really wish I wouldn't have written that character this way, or I wish I would have changed this or changed that?
Um, yeah, there is actually. So I do a series right now called Westward, and there's a young girl there's a young female character in this series, and she's 16 years old, right? So she's in high school, right? And I try and make her kind of edgy and kind of a little bit rebellious, but good-hearted, blah 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 blah. Well, the one thing that I didn't do is change the language of how she speaks, because teenagers always have these crazy, they say the bomb or whatever it is that teenagers say. So there's always stupid off the chain hook bomb phrases that people are talking about all the time
They
that
do.
no adults know what the fuck they're talking about.
Those phrases
So
are off the chain.
I noticed that all teenagers talk like that. They say totes and obvi now or whatever, and that's like an inherent. If you have kids or if you raise teenagers, that's like an inherent thing that you notice. Kids talk with slang, and I didn't think about that because I'm not a kid. So like looking back at it, I do wish I had kind of spiced that language and dialogue up a little bit more.
Right.
guess that
I
makes
dig
sense.
the character of Penelope. Like I really like her. I like I won't get into too many, plot points for those of you, who haven't read it. I wanted to give you guys a chance, but I like the way that she changes as she goes from younger to older, and her mentality on how she's viewed and stuff like that. I thought it was really interesting. I had a couple friends that kind of did the same thing growing up, so I was like, this is pretty neat. I like it, spoke to me. I thought like I can connect with this.
Yeah, Penelope is definitely the most popular character in the series, although I'm not sure why, because she has the least amount of screen time, I guess you could call it. But like Victor's Victor's had a lot of screen time, Annabelle's had a lot of screen time. Penelope's only come up a few times, and she's going to get more important later, but she's, by far the most asked for sketch or the most requested print on all the Kickstarters and everything like that. She's really popular.
Jordan, I think you said you had a question. I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to cut you
Yeah,
off.
I'll go ahead. So, how long have you been professionally involved in comics, and what really first got you into the industry?
I've done my first graphic novel came out in 2009. That's when I consider this all to have started. Uh, and I'm sorry, what was the second part?
The second part was just how did you first become involved? Like, did you have an inspiration? Did you just wake up one day and decide you wanted to write comics? What
Um,
inspired you?
well, I had been working on when I was in high school, I had this idea for this story, and it wasn't a great story, but I thought it was great, and I worked on it for a real long time, like years and years. And then I think for like when I discovered Brian Michael Bendis, like I was reading all these titles at the time. I was reading like five different titles of comics, and it was like blowing my mind how good these comics were. And then I realized that they were all written by the same guy, and that's Brian Michael Bendis. And I thought, I really think I can do this. Like I think I have something now like that I can really connect with and find my own voice with. And um, I was wrapping up college at the time, and I was in this comic book class, and I had this teacher named Arvell Jones who had done comics professionally, and he was teaching this comics class. He asked us to do 8 pages, and I did 8 pages, and it was the first time. I haven't thought about this in a while, actually. Sorry. It was the first time I did something that I looked at it and I was like, this is almost like professional looking. Like this is almost good enough to like do something with. Um, and then after I did that, I decided I was ready to try doing a graphic novel, and that's when I did it.
Cool.
Very cool.
That's pretty cool. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure that did you go to school for writing, Ken?
No, I went to school for art.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I think you mentioned that earlier, but that's pretty cool. Do you remember what your first story was about? Your first 8 pages?
Yeah, or I'm sorry, the comic book story. Yeah, it was called Sprint, and it was just a little vignette, it was a little short story about this character who later became the main character of the graphic novel I followed it up with.
Cool.
It was about a kid running around on the rooftops. That's what it was about. It's really interesting.
Cool.
I mean, how? I mean, it's kind of hard to probably tell a huge story in only 8 pages, but
Right.
it's cool that you took it and you expanded upon it and turned it into something. Garrick, you said earlier you had a question.
Yeah. I was just wondering, as far as the colors go for in your stories, like, it's really cool, kind of how you color everything and like all the special effects. Like, what made you go in like this direction instead of the normal like solid colors, tights, and like really bright stuff that you see in most of the comics today?
Um, I don't think I understand that question. What do you mean?
Like, uh, well, I'm looking through the book right now, and you just have like a bunch of really cool effects and shading and things like that. That's not really like what you see in the standard Superman comic, where the colors are really bright and like everything blends really well.
Because that's called a color key. That's art. We learned it in art school. It's like instead of just making the skin color the color of skin and the blue part blue and the red part red, you sort of, you lay those colors in, and then you put this sort of overlay on top of it, something that
Uh
kind
huh.
of adds green to all of it and sort of brings it all together. And then once it all kind of comes together and it's all just um, it's kind of blendy, then you can take certain elements of that image and that pops out a lot more. So like you'll have a mostly green thing with like a red rose that really pops out. But there's all kinds of colors in the background. There's a blue sky and there's white clouds and there's yellow daffodils, but mostly it's all green. Like the Matrix had a green color key every time they were in the Matrix. You
Yeah.
see this shit all the time.
Okay.
Is
So do you?
Ken, is there a specific medium that you prefer to work with? Is there something that you like to work with over, anything else?
Uh, visual like drawing wise.
Yeah.
Photoshop's the only thing I really work with. It's primarily digital art.
Which I guess yeah, that would be my question. And we kind of talked about this earlier. So I know Garrick. Garrick does a bit of art, and he recently bought a drawing tablet, which appears to have helped his art, at least his digital art, quite a bit. What do you use, Ken? What technology do you use in both the writing and the artistic process?
I use a Wacom tablet. Any tablet by Wacom is generally pretty trusted. The size of the tablet doesn't matter so much. People like to buy big tablets because, well, you know why. But but
Ladies.
the truth is, since you can change the size of your canvas on the screen, it doesn't matter how big your tablet is. So I use that. I use an iMac and I use a MacBook Pro.
Cool. How long did it take you to get the hang of using a tablet versus drawing something on paper?
About a year of doing a graphic novel. Like the first graphic novel I did is called Culloden Project, and if you look at that stuff now and compare it to the later stuff, like you can see how rigid and non-confident the line art is compared to the stuff that came later. Because you just get used to it, the same way you get used to your mouse or driving a car or whatever.
So,
That makes sense.
I have a question. So, your stories. I mean, I've only read a little bit of Westward, and it seems to be. I mean, I like the story. I think it's pretty cool, but I think this is a really general question that I think a lot of authors get asked, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So, sorry.
Okay.
But
Sorry.
where do you find, where does your inspiration come from? Where do you find the stories that you come up with?
Uh, well, what I do is I'll get you get an idea like I don't know, like a vampire, vampires meet dinosaurs or whatever, and you think, oh, that sounds kind of cool, and then you write that down in like a little notebook. And then you kind of talk to your friends. You're like, what would it be like if vampires met dinosaurs? And some of your friends kind of tell you about it, what they think, and maybe you start having some interesting ideas that you didn't have before, and some people have different takes. And then you start getting like kind of a plot together. And then whichever ideas you have, whichever concepts you get that last the longest in conversation, those are the ones that you sort of go forward with because they're not just interesting to you, they're interesting to other people too.
Cool.
I have another question. It's kind of far and apart from what we've been asking, but who's your favorite comic book character of all time, and what really draws you towards that character?
And be very careful because there is a right answer.
Uh, I don't know about famous. I don't know. I don't know if I could say a favorite for sure, but I know one that doesn't get talked about as much as I'd like is the Punisher. I really, really like the Punisher, despite those movies.
All of those.
Yeah, the movies are pretty horrible.
With the glorious exception of Dolph Lundgren's 80s flick.
Yeah, that one was. I just recently watched that for the first time, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much better it was than the second and third one.
It's bizarre.
Do you have a favorite artist? Is it Brian Michael Bendis, or not artist, author? Is it Brian Michael Bendis?
The artist is clearly John Romita Jr.
I think if I had to pick, I think if I had to pick, I don't know, because Alan Moore and Brian Michael Bendis, they're like night and day, but they have to exist together in order to encompass the full spectrum of fucking totally relatable, realistic dialogue with logical plot lines that are believable, and then batshit crazy fucking awesome storylines that make you think about your reality differently. So yeah, it would be one of those two. I don't know.
Sounds good to me.
Do you have a favorite artist though? Besides yourself?
I mean,
No,
you
I don't.
Okay. Well,
that's fair. So I guess I want to ask a question that's probably not fair and might not have an answer, but when do you, I guess, as an author or as an artist, know that maybe I guess it's not fair to say that your book is complete or finished, but when do you know that it's good enough and you're willing to risk it out, putting it out there for other people to read?
And criticize.
Well, are you saying when is it good enough when is the book itself good enough to put out there, or are you saying when is it good enough to decide to do a book?
Actually, I mean both are pretty decent questions. So answer both.
Well,
You just made more work for yourself, man.
Yeah, that's on you.
no, I don't. I don't think so, because I would never put a book together without. I would never get in a car unless I knew where I was going. I would never put a book together unless I knew I had a plan to release it. Like that would. I mean, I guess I don't really. I mean, I feel like I'm at a level where I'm confident in getting in my ability to keep the books going and get them out on time, and it doesn't. I don't really look at it and go, "Is this good enough to ship yet?" I look at it and go, "Is this done or not?"
So when you do you storyboard your books, Ken, or do you write scripts, or I mean you kind of have I guess the sometimes benefit of being both the author and artist on the stuff you do. So do you have a process that you work through before you actually start to draw the comic and fill in the bubbles, or
Yeah.
what is your process?
So you're telling all your friends about this plot that you have, this story, and you're having all these conversations, and then you finally figure out this plot that you want. You want this character to wake up from this dream world and fight some robots and then become the next Messiah or whatever. That's your plot. So then you tell that story to, like, remember that scene in Reservoir Dogs where that undercover cop has to memorize that lie, and then he's got to tell that story over and over again. until he feels like he was there, until he feels like he can, taste the bathroom or whatever. That's gross. Um, so that's kind of what you do. You tell your friends, even people who don't like comic books, you tell your friends the story over and over again until you know for sure how it happens. And if you can keep them interested, then you're still, you still got it. You still got something good to work with. And then you write a script, and it looks just like a film script. And most of the time, you have to plan out your storyboards. You have to pick your angles, especially in a sort of intimate scene where it's just two people for pages and pages, and they're having a conversation. You got to figure out which angles work best and how the pacing works. So yeah, the answer is yeah. You got a film script. You got to, but the real trick is figuring out whether or not you have something truly interesting enough outside your own bubble of interest to start developing and to start spending your time on.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Ken, this might be a loaded question, and if it's too much, feel free to just pass. But I was wondering if maybe you could kind of maybe give a brief rundown or kind of explain to us the process of once you pretty much have an idea set in stone and you're ready to go on it. How do you go from that being a storyboarded out, a concept that you want to put down on paper to actually having it be a finished book in hand that you can sell to a customer or a reader?
Say that one more time.
How do you go basically from having an idea, a concept that you want to put out to the ultimate, like the finished product? How do you go about doing it?
I mean, pretty much, how do you go from concept to the finished product?
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, pretty much that. Pretty much what I just said. Like
Yeah.
you talk to your friends, you write your shit, you plan it all out. Do you mean like in a different? I'm not sure if you mean in a different way that I'm not following, or.
Well, I kind of meant more along the lines of, how do you go about getting it published? Do you have to farm it out to anyone or things of that
Oh,
nature? But
I publish it. So any printing costs or any advertising costs fall on me. So it's a self-published book. So any money that I make off of the book, I'm making back from the cost to put the book out there. As far as learning how to get printers, as far as getting distribution, um, that's pretty much free information. You can Google that stuff. That's how I did
yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's a complicated process, especially explaining the difference between digital printing and offset printing and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah,
Cool.
yeah, that's it.
All right, Garrick. So Garrick has a couple questions that he's been sent from people that are watching. You want to do like two or three questions real quick from the people that are watching the cast?
Okay.
Okay, I have a question from Suicide Saint. What cons have you attended? And out of those cons, which is your favorite?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yes, alienate all the cons. Do it.
It's time to decide.
Uh, um,
Which one do you hate the most? Let's go there.
I hate the big city ones the most. I hate the big city ones the most. Those are rough. They don't really care that you're even there because they got the big names there. So at the smaller cons, you have people treating you a little bit better. You have people helping you unload stuff. You have a nice little snack room in the back that only the stars can go to.
Ooh.
Um, I've done Chicago, New York. New York was the absolute worst one. I'll never ever do that one again. West Virginia, and then 3 cons in Michigan. Three different areas in the Michigan area.
Okay. Also, another question. Do you cosplay at Comic Cons? If so, who do you go as? If not, why not? Why haven't you done it? What's wrong with you?
I don't because I'm an adult.
All right. Okay.
Dressing up as children.
Wearing clothes is for children. Also, another question from Suicide State, aka Taylor. Um, what is the best cosplay you've seen at a con?
The best cosplay I've seen at a con is when a girl dressed up as one of my own characters.
Dang, that's deep.
That's awesome.
Also, this is the last question, and it's completely awful. But question for Mr. Ken.
4 inches.
It's 4 inches, guys.
That is how thick all of his books are when you put them together.
I, I think we've got all
Thanks
we
for
need
that,
to
Ken.
know.
Thanks for
Yeah.
that.
No problem, guys. Anytime.
The news is broken here at the Legends Comicast. You heard it here first. But all right, I'm not gonna even ask the question now. No, they don't deserve it.
Anywho, well, personally, I want to say thanks for being on here, Ken. We appreciate it. Ken's been to WV PopCon, which is where I met him. These guys met him either there or out in Chicago. Awesome guy, great author, awesome artist. Reading the stuff that he's put out is really good. I was pleasantly, I won't say surprised because I'd heard nothing but good things, but awesome work.
That's not
I'm,
true.
I'm-
I've said some things.
but his stuff is out there if you guys want to check it out. Google Westward, Google Dry Spell. We'll put up some links when we do this to his website and some of the stuff that's out there. I don't want to pander too much or make it seem like I'm selling you guys something. But thank you very much for being on here, Ken. We appreciate it. And
Oh, I appreciate the invite.
and he's also going to stay on here with us for the next couple minutes while we complain about things that are also going on in the comic book world. So thanks for just being willing to jump into the trenches of the comic book world, where we become very hyper cynical and we don't like many things. We fear change.
Okay.
So we're talking about
Yeah.
old Paul Rudd first.
Yeah. First topic on today's secondary agenda. After what will only be referred to from now on as the Ken Krekeler fiasco.
Of 2014. You have to put a date in there.
So the first topic we're going to talk about is Edgar Wright, the guy that's producing the Ant-Man movie, which is supposed to be the third film, or the first film in the third wave of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Ant-Man. He tweeted some information the other day, put out a picture that kind of may have alluded to who is going to be Ant-Man in this movie, and it's actually been a point of contention because for those of you guys that don't know, I don't want to go too super high and talk so far over your head that you lose interest, but for the interests of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the second Avengers movie is going to deal with a robot named Ultron. And Ultron was created by Ant-Man. But the director of the Avengers has already said that the person who created Ultron in the comic books will not be in the Avengers. So it kind of leads you to wonder where he's going to come from. Is it going to be like, a robot that Tony Stark creates, which, it doesn't matter. That's neither here nor there. But it's also led to a lot of people wondering why Ant-Man as a film was decided to come out after the second Avengers movie or after the introduction of a character that's pretty much exclusively associated with Ant-Man. So you can only assume that Ultron will probably be defeated at that point. So the main point of contention here is that who is going to be Ant-Man? So who is Paul Rudd going to be playing? So Jordan, I know you're an Ant-Man fan. What do you got going on for us?
Well, the tweet that went out was a picture from like the animated series that depicted an episode where the original Ant-Man in that series, who was Hank Pym, the creator of Ultron, is kind of handing the mantle over to Scott Lang. And I think the caption on that tweet was homework. So he was wanting people to go and watch that episode and see. So that kind of leads me to believe that Scott Lang will be the version of Ant-Man that we see in the movie and not Hank Pym, as a lot of people originally thought.
And are you okay with that? Is that
I'm
all right?
100% okay with that. I think if you know anything about the characters, Scott Lang is a little bit more quirky, not quite as serious as what Hank was, and I feel like Paul Rudd's character, or Paul Rudd kind of, he's a little bit more like that character. We all know him to be funny. We don't really think of him as an action hero. We think of him as comedy. So I think it fits a little bit better, and it makes more sense. It kind of saves that comic community from being really, really mad that Hank Pym wasn't the creator of Ultron. So by eliminating him from the equation entirely, that kind of gets rid of a little bit of that. So
I don't know. It kind of frustrates me because even Scott Lang in the comic books can't exist without Hank Pym. I mean, he steals the technology from Hank Pym and then tries to give it back, and Hank's like, "Oh, you're a cool guy. You can keep it." I don't you
Wait,
think?
What?
That's basically what
He
happens.
steals his technology and says, "You're a cool guy. You can keep it. You can keep this huge, this
Well,
super
instead of
advanced."
continuing to be a jerk, he like saves lives. He
Yeah.
becomes a hero with using the Ant-Man technology that he steals from Hank Pym, and Hank Pym recognizes those qualities in Scott Lang, and so allows him to keep the Ant-Man mantle for a time.
It's
Um,
basically
I mean,
the exact same story as Batman Beyond, except it came out 30 years before Batman Beyond came out. So it's a pretty cool. I mean, I like the idea, but I think it lends itself really well to the idea of Hank Pym is supposed to be this ultra genius robot, physicist, blah blah blah, different science words, but he like they already have that in Tony Stark, so it doesn't really make sense to have all these like super geniuses together. Let's put somebody like Scott Lang in there who's not necessarily an
worth
inventor.
anything.
and
He
it's
can't
easy.
do
It's easy
anything.
enough to. I think it's easy enough to. You can just have Tony Stark invent, I don't know, the cinematic universe's version of Pym particles or something like that, and Scott Lang steal it from Stark Industries building or something like that. Well, I guess Avengers Tower now, but I feel like it's easy enough to remedy. So
Maybe. I
Good
don't know.
point.
Kevin, how do you feel about ants and men?
I don't feel things.
All right. Moving right along, gaining some speed.
So I don't know. I like the idea of I think that another topic I really want to talk about is just the choice of having an Ant-Man film in general is really kind of shows the dedication that Marvel has to properties that they find value in. So I think it would be really easy for them to go with a more well-known character than Ant-Man, but it really shows their dedication to expanding their universe and the faith that they have in these directors and these script writers and the stories that they have from their back catalog to be able to put out an Ant-Man movie, like to sink the money that it's going to take to put that out there and know that it's going to do well.
But to be fair, an Ant-Man movie that might not use like actual Ant-Man story elements, it's a little bizarre. I just worry that like someone who's going to watch this movie and decide, all right, I'm going to go back and I'm going to read Ant-Man, is not going to find the character that they fell in love with in this film. And the reverse is kind of true too. Like if there is an Ant-Man fan out there, if they watch this Ant-Man movie, they
If
might.
they exist.
Yeah, I mean, if they're out there, and I don't know.
You know what's
It
weird, Chris?
honestly-
I agree with you because when I went back, when I watched Batman Forever, and I went back and I was trying to read about Robin, they never had like light up body paint or Alicia Silverstone or Tommy. It was weird.
But when you think about it, that's the problem with those movies. You go watch them, and that like they're parodies of the comics that you're showing up to watch. I mean,
I
you
agree
want
with you.
a movie that, at least in some way, reflects or encompasses these books that you've dedicated, some time to, and then you get.
I mean,
Chris O'Donnell.
To Ant-Man, though.
Oh,
I mean, it's
I know.
Ant-Man.
I'm
Like
kidding
nobody,
in general.
like nobody cares about Ant-Man, and that's the most exciting thing about it to me is that it's a character that nobody is really thinking about. Nobody thinks of Ant-Man as embodying some sort of archetype. So there's going to be a lot less writing on it, and therefore more creativity and more opportunity to kind of do their own thing. I mean, does it really have to be Hank Pym for it to be good?
Exactly. Ant-Man is not one of those characters that is sacred to comic book nerds. Like he's not like Peter Parker or Captain America or Batman or
Right.
Superman, where if you change his identity, you change the entire scope of the character. It's not that serious.
And also they got Paul Rudd, who's a pretty big deal right now. And I
Yeah,
feel like he'll put people in the seats. He's
I
funny,
do love
charming,
Paul Rudd.
like
Brian Fantana.
yeah.
And almost more than anything, Paul Rudd as the actor is what I feel like confirms that it can't be Hank Pym. Because who
Exactly.
in their right mind would cast Paul Rudd as Hank Pym?
Maybe they're trying to get his like dramatic chops in. Maybe this is
Wait, I
the
thought
movie
I
to
thought I thought Paul Rudd was the direct. Is I always get those two guys confused. Which one's the
Edgar
director
Wright's the director.
of Ant-Man?
Edgar Wright's the yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the one that always directs those Paul Rudd movies? Judd Apatow. Judd Apatow. I always
Yeah.
get those two confused.
Yeah.
Judd and Rudd. Sorry.
It also it also wouldn't surprise me if Ant-Man doesn't get like his own book leading up towards the movie. I mean, Scott Lang is the Ant-Man right now in the 616 continuity, so it wouldn't surprise me if to garner more interest, he would get his own book sometime before Ant-Man comes out. So
It seems to be what they're doing in the Marvel universe anyway. Like they just relaunched Guardians of the Galaxy and a couple other, Avengers titles, and I think you're going to see them tying things into, because that's ultimately, I mean, it's a business. They want to get people interested in the character with enough time to build that anticipation, so that when that movie comes out, they got butts in the seats. I mean, the Avengers, the first one made like a, a more money than most countries have. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the comic continuity too.
Mm-hmm.
So, Garrett, do you want to? I feel like you guys want to talk about a topic that we haven't talked about in literally weeks.
And wait, what?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man? All right. That's what I thought.
It's like we never get around to
No,
talking about
no.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, I know. Like you guys hate talking about Spider-Man. It's awful.
Okay.
We never do it. It's crazy.
So pretty big news came out in the world today. It's not confirmed yet, but it is a big enough rumor, and there was enough stuff going on with it in the last 24 hours for it to be considered a possibility. So, as we all know, if you've been listening to the last comic book podcast, the Legends Comicast, we've been talking a lot about what's going on in the Spider-Man universe because let's face it, he's got a movie coming out. They just ended a 700 issue series about a year ago. They relaunched the character. If is your first time tuning in, we have a screen grab up that kind of shows you everything that's going on. To save himself from death, Dr. Octopus hijacked Peter Parker's body with science, and
With science.
he turned himself into Peter Parker, and now Peter Parker is no more, and Otto Octavius is living his life like Ghost Dad. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool concept to see. One of Spider-Man, Peter Parker's greatest adversaries, trying to live his life better than he ever could. So, that's a recap. If you need any more information about it, watch the last two podcasts. We talk about it until you probably won't be interested anymore.
Yeah.
But the bigger news, the bigger piece of news that goes along with this is yesterday, a certain website that will remain nameless displayed an image that is supposedly from one of the Marvel ordering catalogs. And the image is of Peter Parker,
Well,
basically Spider-Man without a mask on, smiling, and it says Amazing Spider-Man #1 on it, which is...
Wait. Why is the website that posted this to remain nameless? I mean, you could just be making this up. Like, why is that secret?
Are you ready? You ready for the reason, Ken?
Okay.
I don't remember the name of the website.
Okay. So this is sort of just speculative then.
Well,
Yeah,
here's the problem I have with it. It went up, and then it went up on a bunch of different websites. It went up on Newsarama, it went up on Comic Book Resources, it went up on Bleeding Cool, and then it got torn down. And it said Marvel has requested that this come down. Like, you can't have this picture up. And for the most part, I mean, it looks pretty much legit to me. Like I'm sure you can do anything with Photoshop now, but it looks like the art of Ramos. I don't know how you say his name, and yeah,
Humberto.
I mean, I know that they have some. I know that they've been hinting at some things with the Superior Spider-Man series that's out right now that's going to hint at Peter Parker coming back eventually. But this is kind of one of those things that you think that they might want to have held on to as kind of like a big drop, because a lot of comic book fans are still split. Some of them want Peter Parker back, like Chris Bird, and some of them
And
want him to
me?
stay gone, like myself and Jordan.
Who?
Hmm.
Hold on. Who wants him
Hmm.
to stay gone?
Me, I
I want
want him
him
to
to
stay
stay
gone
gone.
for.
I
Oh
want him
my
to stay gone for
gosh.
like 2 years.
You guys are crazy.
Look, I
And
don't need I don't want Peter Parker to be like gone forever, but I do like where the story's going, and I like the idea of it, and I'd like to see, something fresh here. But
I
anywho,
feel
so
like
you have the main gist of the idea of why this is important. The original Amazing Spider-Man series ran for 700 issues before it was finally canceled and turned into the Superior Spider-Man last year. So if this is relaunched, not only is this going to be a huge deal for comic book publishers, as Spider-Man is hands down one of the top two most favorite comic book characters, most accessible comic book characters, but for comic book stores, this is huge. There's going to be a huge opportunity for sales, for variant covers, for merchandising, for midnight events, all kinds of different stuff. Um, if this turns out to be real, I just want to hear some kind of some thoughts from you guys on what you guys think this means.
I
My,
don't really like it.
wow. Of
I
course
don't
you
like it.
don't.
I don't like it this soon. I had 700 plus issues with Peter Parker as Spider-Man. I got tired of hearing the same thing over and over again, and here I am, what, 20 something issues in the Superior Spider-Man, and
But I,
already we're talking about
I
bringing
don't. I
Peter
don't
back.
think it takes a different Spider-Man to tell a new story, or a new Spider-Man story. So I don't know. I read Spider-Man for Peter Parker, not for Octavius. So I'd like the book that I'm reading to come back. They
Right.
need.
I mean, even with that, like in recent years, I guess I've been reading more of Ultimate Spider-Man because Miles Morales brings kind of a little bit of a different dynamic than what Peter did, just because I literally was bored with Peter. And I don't know, people die, get killed all the time in the comic book universe with really no ramifications because they're always coming back. And I just hate that he's coming back so soon.
Is it soon?
It's
It's
soon.
been forever.
It's been like
It's
three
been
months.
it's been 26 issues so far,
All right,
but it's
guys.
been
It's
13
it's
months.
it's been
Like
You
No,
know,
forever
yeah,
for me.
it's been years since I followed Ultimate Spider-Man right up until Peter Parker died. I got a few issues into the Miles Morales Spider-Man, and I liked it. But I mean, they started marketing it in this sort of weird way where I couldn't keep track of it anymore. I didn't know if that was still going on anymore. I lost track of it. Like, is that so? That's still going on. That's 26 issues into Ultimate Spider-Man.
it's 26 or 27 issues into Superior Spider-Man right now, and it's put out bi-month or bi-weekly. It's the second time I did that. Bi-weekly, so it comes out twice a month. But I
But
don't know.
that's not Miles Morales, right?
Right.
I'm
No,
sorry.
no, no, no. This is Otto.
Right.
Um, the Ultimate Spider-Man still only comes out once a month. Um,
But they still do
but
that one.
Yeah.
yeah, they still
Absolutely.
do that one.
Okay.
We actually talked about that a couple weeks ago too, and there's some cool stuff going on in that universe as well. But with with Peter Parker coming back, if like again, I think all of this is operating under the platform that yes, he is coming back. It's going to happen, and I think eventually, whether he comes back because this is a legitimate image, or whether he comes back in another year or 6 months or whatever it takes to bring him back, he's coming back eventually, and I think it's the reason that this is a good topic for us right now is because we need to put this Spider-Man thing to rest. We've been talking about it, and I want to bring up an idea that I had, and I want to know what you guys think about what's going to happen. Let's say that this is real, and he's coming back, and he's coming back in a couple months. What happens to Otto at that point? You know?
Well, I guess it depends on how he comes back.
True.
Yeah.
Like if his conscience takes his own body back, then Otto's just fizzles away. I guess he's gone, but I don't know. Like, did his mind find another body or something? Like, it's gonna be weird if he comes back. Like how they're gonna explain it. I don't see like any.
Clone Saga.
Yeah, like
Calling it now.
maybe they just end Superior
We're not going to
Spider-Man and
mention
they're
that saga ever again.
like
I would love to see. I won't say dream scenario, but a really cool scenario for me right now, because I do enjoy Superior Spider-Man so much, is I would love to see Superior Spider-Man turn into the Amazing Spider-Man's biggest nemesis. Like, Goblin's been around for a long time. He's been a huge foe, Venom has. But, like, it would be cool to see some sweet Spider-Man on Spider-Man action without a symbiote being involved or anything like that.
Keep it PG. Nick.
yeah, so, like
It's a family show.
um, but
I'm kind of lending myself to that. Maybe somebody gets cloned or something happens.
Yeah.
The Avengers have all kinds of science. Like, somebody can make this happen without it being hokey.
unless like
Definitely,
Peter
yeah.
reveals like I don't see how they would do it. How did they get his like Peter back? Like I don't understand how that would happen.
Again, keep it PG, you know?
I don't Mr. Parker, I don't understand how they would get him back. Like he was defeated by Doc Ock and deleted or whatever like out of the computer.
There's
And
always a way.
I guess there's always a way, but
There's always a way.
it's gonna make zero sense, and that's the problem. Like, ugh,
That's the glory of comic books, is that it doesn't always have to make sense.
I guess so.
It should make a little bit of sense.
It should. It should definitely, like, that's like we talked about it a couple weeks ago. There's nothing worse than when an author loses interest in a story and goes, and he came back because it was Swamp Thing.
Yeah, I mean, they pay these guys hundreds, if not hundreds of dollars. They can at least make these stories make sense.
I mean, they
Um,
could just end Superior Spider-Man and be like, "This is the new Amazing Spider-Man," and not explain anything. They don't have to.
And then Peter Parker wakes up.
Yeah,
We're
that's
all
what.
green.
Oh, the Mario
Screw
2
you.
approach.
Yeah,
I like
fuck
that.
And then he
They did
remembers.
that with Punisher. There was a time where Punisher kills all these bad guys, and then they brought demonology into it, and this devil came and said, "You've been killing all these people because I've been secretly making you do it." And it was supposed to be this big change where Punisher had these new weapons made out of heaven's light and all this stuff. It's supposed to be this permanent change. And it did so poorly that they just launched a new series with Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon writing and drawing. And they didn't explain it. They just started it all. They just started over. They just pretended that it had never happened.
I feel like that's something that we might run into. Amazing
I don't.
Spider-Man #1, like maybe it could just be
I
a
don't
different
think you
universe
can.
Spider-Man.
I don't think you can. I think that Spider-Man is the biggest property that Marvel has, and for the Superior Spider-Man is the best-selling comic book on the market right now. It beats everything else out there. For them to bring him back and offer no explanation or no continuity in its connection to Superior Spider-Man isn't possible. Dan Slott is writing that title. He's writing this one. He has a master plan, which whatever it happens to be, I just don't know. I mean, of course, we don't know what it is, but hopefully it isn't. I mean, I think that how he does this and if he can pull this off would really put an exclamation point on his run with this character, which has been going on for a very long time.
What's interesting, which I hadn't thought of until just now, is the impact that this kind of has on the Ultimate Universe. Because a lot of people had thought that Miles Morales was just going to replace the Peter Parker of 616. That at the culmination at the end of this Ultimate story arc, where they functionally cancel that comic book universe.
Yeah.
Rumor had it that Miles Morales was going to stick around and just get ported over into this universe. And this is the method that a lot of people thought Marvel was going to use, since he'd really been the only successful thing about their Ultimate Universe in a long time. But this picture of Peter Parker on the front seems to confirm that it's not going to be Miles. So what happens to Miles?
I still think he'll have something to do with the
I think he's going to turn into Swamp Thing and Jim Johns is going
Are any of you guys reading Cataclysm, the Ultimate event that's going on right now?
I'm really trying not to know.
Well, spoiler alert, Miles Morales is on his way to the 616 universe in that comic right now to try to figure out a way to stop Galactus from doing what he's doing. So
That's actually
and there's also
really cool.
Yeah, there's also another Miles Morales. If you guys read the Spider-Man book, that was, I don't know, I guess it was sometime last year, where Peter Parker from 616 went to the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, I read
Peter
that.
Parker, at the very end of that, Peter like Googles Miles in his universe and sees that there is a Miles Morales already present in the 616 universe,
Yeah.
and
What
there's
is
like
what is
there's a look of
616?
I
surprise.
try to I try
It's
to
just the
avoid talking too much.
non-ultimate universe.
Yeah, I try to
Yeah,
avoid
the
talking
main
about those universes too much because it
confused.
tends to it confuses people that don't read the Ultimate Universe. It ends up sometime most of the time not being canon, and then you're left with
Basically,
this
it's Earth 1 and
bitter.
Earth 2.
Yeah,
Basically.
Okay, that doesn't explain it really.
yeah, it
So
doesn't at all.
616 is the regular Spider-Man universe.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
It's the universe that almost all Marvel comic books reside in, and then the Ultimate Universe is an alternate. Think of it as a different timeline or different dimension kind
Yeah.
of a thing. So anybody have any comments left on the Amazing Spider-Man? Because this will be the last time that we bring this up, hopefully for a little bit of time.
And then
We
next
gotta give
week.
Spider-Man a break.
It's
Until
talking
there's
about the
more
Amazing
big
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
movie.
things.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they come up with a good explanation if they bring Peter back. I mean, they don't have to. Doc Ock could just change his outlook on life and be happy and smiling. Okay, that's a thing that could happen. And also, I don't want to see Miles go away. I really like him as a character, and it would be great to have him in the universe with everybody else. So those are my final thoughts.
It would be cool to have them together, like a Spider-Man Power Rangers.
Yes,
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's.
Spider Rangers.
We're getting pretty close to the end of our show here.
Yep, we got like
So, so sorry, I started reading comments and made myself laugh.
Yeah.
So, again, I want to thank Ken Krekeler for being on the show. Appreciate you being on here.
Sure.
Ken Krekeler, if you missed some of our conversation earlier, author, artist, independent, writes some awesome stuff. I finally got a chance to read some of it this week, and it's really good. I mean, for whatever my opinion's worth, go out there, find his stuff. Westward, take a look at it. Dry Spell, really awesome stuff. Give it a shot if you come in any of the cons in the Michigan area, or hopefully none of the big ones because he won't be there. He said he hated them, but give him a shout out. Buy some of his stuff. I'm sure he appreciate it.
hopefully
But,
he'll be back at PopCon this year.
Maybe.
Ken, you will. You'll be here. All right. We're looking forward to it.
So, last thing I want to bring up again. Last week's winners of the contest, 6-month Superior Spider-Man subscription was Brandon Horn, and issues 1 through 4 of Forever Evil are going to Taylor, the Saint Pyre / Suicide Saint /
Taylor.
all.
You know,
Yeah, just as
Hold
many
on, I
names.
feel like we have to. So this week we weren't going to do a giveaway. I think we have to. We need to come up with something.
You're just,
Why don't we give away?
you're gonna-
Here's an idea.
All right, you give away something of yours.
I'll pay for it.
All right.
This week we're going to give away. So we talked about. We're going to give away the books that we're going to talk about. How's that?
Okay.
You know what?
Sure.
That seems fair. That seems like a good idea.
Okay.
All right. So, last segment of the show here today, we got a little bit of time left, is we are going to make some recommendations for you. And it's going to be awesome because I don't want to get off on the wrong foot when we start talking about new comics, but you should always trust us. We just know what we're talking
Yeah.
about.
We're smart guys. Come on.
I've read over 10 comic books, so I know quite a bit. And I've seen most of the Avengers, so
I don't really read comics, but I watch the movies. So
I'm on par with that guy that Wikipedia's comic book characters in line, the movie line, so he can talk about them in the theater like he's reads comics. I could be that guy.
All right.
All right, so Garrick, being our main man, our grid today, do you want to start out with your books, your recommendations of the week?
Yes. I recommend Earth 2 number 19 comes out next week. Good jumping on point is Earth 2 number 17. They started a new arc. Um, so number 19 is part 3, number 17 is part 1. And I also recommend Injustice Year 2, number 1, the first issue that's coming out for Year 2. The Smash video game Chris Bird cheats at. So I sold it back to GameStop because nobody wanted.
That's actually a true story.
I'm not trying to get.
You sounded real salty there.
I'm not trying to get dunked by Solomon Grundy, so I'll just read the book. But it's a really good game, and the comic is just as good. So this is chapter 1 of the new year. I recommend both of these. They both involve Superman beating up other heroes that he's normally allies with. So they're pretty interesting.
It's kind of like what would the world be if Superman was just a jerk?
Yeah,
You know,
just a rude guy.
if he took it upon himself to just run stuff.
Just
from now
imagine
on.
if Chris Bird was Superman.
I wouldn't do anything. Can we be honest for a second? I'd sit
As
around.
long as no emergencies are reported to you via text message, we should be fine.
Yeah.
I would eat guacamole much faster than I currently do. Word.
All right.
That's really it. That would be my superpower. If I were Superman, I'd just eat a lot of chips.
All right, Jordan, what
Fair
are your
enough.
books of the week?
All right, I have two, and they're both really good starting points because they're both the first issue of the series. The first one's Black Widow. Black Widow's penned by Nathan Edmondson. I think the illustration's by Phil Nato. I don't know how to say his last name. But it's really everything that you'd want in a Black Widow book. It kind of reminds me of Hawkeye, if anybody's reading that, where it's kind of Natasha doing stuff that's not related to the Avengers or not related to S.H.I.E.L.D., kind of the stuff that she's doing on her own personal time, which is pretty cool. And then the second book is Avengers World. It's another Avengers book by Jonathan Hickman, and it basically revolves around Captain America reluctantly agreeing to work with the Maria Hill-led S.H.I.E.L.D. team again. And it's really the Avengers that everybody knows and loves. Ant-Man, the Hulk, Thor, they're all in the mix there. And again, it's the first of the series for both of these, so it's a really good starting point.
Um, I just want to bring up one thing. Avengers World is getting some pretty positive vibes out there. It's supposed to be kind of like the central point for you to follow Avengers. So if you haven't, they're pretty deep in like 20 issues into the other Avengers titles. So if you want to read an Avengers title, pick that one up because it's probably the most accessible right now.
Yeah, it also, like, a lot of the Avengers, a lot of things that I heard people didn't like about the other Avengers books right now is that they all kind of dealt with this cosmic space stuff that a lot of people didn't understand. And I know that the enemies in Avengers World are going to be more earthbound enemies, so it's a little bit easier just to jump into as a whole, so most definitely.
I want to add one other thing. Jonathan Hickman isn't actually writing this; he's kind of overseeing it. Nick Spencer's writing it, but Jonathan Hickman's it's like based off of his other. He basically writes every Avengers book, so he just kind of has that input on it. But so ultimately he's the man there. But Nick Spencer's the guy that's writing that right now. So I don't know much about him, but it is what it is. All right, Birdman.
Okay. So my recommendations this week are also number ones. And so it's useful to have an easy jumping on point. Peter David has been asked, and so successfully has rebooted the X Factor series. He worked on X Factor for years, and it was pretty sweet. He wrote about the Jamie Madrox, the multiple man led team. So he's rebooted it now with all new X Factor. It started this week and should be pretty easy to find at any local comic book store. Hopefully it's as fun and well written as the last one. And the other book I recommend is Revolutionary War Alpha. This is the first time in like a significant amount of time that the Marvel Universe has bothered to tackle their like United Kingdom based stuff, which is basically the half of the world where like wizards and dragons and all that crap still takes place. You have a very street level hero over in the United States, so you get an occasional wizard in the UK.
I mean, take a look at this chubby dude with the sword and the overcoat. He looks like a pretty threatening guy.
Is Captain Britain involved? If he's not, I'm not about it.
He is.
This guy in the back with the Union Jack outfit looks pretty
That
sweet.
is Union Jack.
All right. See, I know my stuff. Let's go.
Yeah, he's been reading it for years, and he can.
That's a
He recommends
pretty
it.
original name. All right.
Welcome to comics.
Is this girl on the left female woman? Because
That's a girl, man.
oh, all right.
That was awesome. All right, so Chris, cool, thank you. Good recommendations. My 2 books for this week. The first book I'm going to recommend is Detective Comics 27. So DC is doing a really cool thing this year. For right now, for this month, sorry. Detective Comics 27 was the first appearance of Batman back in the 40s, and they're kind of pulling out all the stops for Detective Comics 27 as part of the New 52 universe. They have a boatload of artists, a boatload of authors. It's a mega-sized issue. It's, I think, 94 to 96 pages. There's like 7 or 8 stories inside of it that tell a bunch of different types of stories. I just got it today. Wait until after the cast to read it, but I'm super pumped. There's 6 different covers that are out there for it, so depending on how much money you want to spend, you can either pick up the regular ones or you can go spend all your money on the super fabricated variant covers. But it's a cool book. My favorite author, Scott Snyder, is writing one of the stories in there, so I can't wait to read that. But it has great art from Greg Capullo, Jason Fabric, tons of other people in there, so it's pretty cool. Check it out. I recommend that book. And the second book, which is crazy that I'm recommending this, but I'm doing it, is Action Comics 27.
What?
Yeah, I know. You're thinking. You're thinking, Nick, you've never liked Action Comics, and that's because Grant Morrison wrote the first 18 issues, and I don't like Grant Morrison that much. But Action Comics kind of went through a weird thing after Grant Morrison left, where they didn't really have a real author. Tony Daniel wrote for them for 2 issues, and then he quit the series. And then Scott Lobdell, who writes Superman, took over for him, and he wrote it for 2 or 3. And then they finally gave the job to Greg Peck, and he is writing it right now, and it is awesome. It's the Superman stories that we've been waiting for. The art is awesome. Aaron Cutter's doing the art for it, so it's really cool. Cool stories. It's kind of getting more back to maybe a little bit more traditional roots of Superman stories instead of all this weird galactic temporal paradoxes and weird things. But it's more of an accessible story for people that are into Superman, that want to get to know the character a little bit better. He's also writing Batman versus Superman right now, so if you guys want to check that out, that's a pretty good title too. But I kind of prefer Superman Action Comics. I'm pretty pumped about it. So anybody have anything to add to any of the books that we recommended? It was Earth 2, issue 19, Injustice Year 2, issue 1, Black Widow, issue 1, Avengers World, issue 1, Revolutionary War Alpha, issue 1, all new X Factor, issue 1, and then Detective Comics and Action Comics 27.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all those books.
Holy crap.
So
Go buy them.
Too many
Buy
books.
that's 8 books at about $3, $4 a pop. That'll set you back about $25.
Except for that
You know,
Detective Comics number 27, which is $18.
it's a little bit more, but it's 96 pages, so it's as long as some graphic novels, but it's pretty cool. Check it out. If you guys have a chance, go to your local comic book store, pick it up. Ask for Westward. Ask for Dry Spell. Ask them to order it for you. Call Ken Krekeler's home phone number, which we're going to put up on the screen in a few minutes. Ask him what he's thinking about.
Help him
Just
out
call
with
him-
Batman
call him
Arkham
in the-
City. He's having
Call him in
troubles.
the middle of the night and just breathe into the phone. He wants you to do that. But again, so last but not least, I want to thank everybody again who's on the cast for listening in, for supporting us. On the bottom of our Twitch page, if you want to donate, we still have Deadpool, donate for Deadpool down there. So if you guys want to do that, support us, invite a friend. I'm going to be posting some stuff around in some comic book forums and trying to get more people on here so we can improve our prizes. Remember, anything that you guys donate comes back to you guys in the form of better, gear for the podcast and better prizes in the future because we're doing most of this stuff out of pocket, and we appreciate all the support and all the help that you guys have been giving us. So thank you guys first and foremost.
Let's also thank the tens, if not 15s, of you who watch on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, your support means just as much, maybe even twice as much. We like you most. So.
Okay, well, thanks Ken for coming on the show. Thank you guys for watching at home and listening in, and thank you guys for checking out the YouTube page. Follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, like our page. Appreciate it. That's it for tonight. Thank you guys, and support your local comic book store and your local comic book office.